All right, so we have a few questions in the Q&A. The first one is for Nicole. What drew you to pick folk tales as a focus of your art?
Growing up, my family has had like a long history of telling each other stories, like bedtime stories, or like my grandmother used to tell me and my sister stories about her life before she immigrated to Canada and after. So it's just been a really big part of like my life, and I really wanted to be able to connect to other people through telling stories, because I feel like it's an easy way to understand why someone believes certain things. And I think it kind of adds somewhat of a sense of whimsy to it too, because it almost seems kind of like childlike, because it's folk tales or story tales, bedtime stories that you would tell to a kid. But I feel like it helps people connect more to them, because they're not super intense or like hard to understand.
There was a question about microphones for the attendees. You don't have access to your microphones or cameras, so you can only type in the chat. And then also we have a question, I think it's just for like in general for everybody. How do you find it working on your final projects when you were constrained by lockdowns? Maybe I can go first. For me, it definitely presented a challenge. I had to work in my apartment, which isn't ideal, and I really did miss having access to the studios. But it also served as an opportunity to find different ways of making art. I don't know if I would have produced the same work that I did if the circumstances had been different. Yeah.
All right, I can go next. So to answer that question, it is certainly difficult. As a media installation artist, it was very difficult because I could not work in a space. I was limited to the confines of my house, which meant that I focused a little bit more on my digital practice of video making instead of my actual sculptural aspects of my art. So to get around that, as I said, I focused more on the digital and the video. Of course, I did not completely give up installation. Thankfully, the university did allow us to, in limited capacity, go and use some of the rooms in Wilbrod, which certainly helped on that. And as you have seen, I tried my best to transfer what my installations and performances would look like through the virtual gallery space. So, yeah.
There's another question here just asking us to introduce ourselves. I'm sorry I forgot that at the beginning. So maybe whoever goes next can also introduce themselves and then answer the question about lockdowns. Yeah.
I've got a question. Tristan, what does your art mean to you? Well, art is very subjective and can mean a great deal of things to great many people. And to me, art is the expression of, at least my art is the expression of like the influence of the past and contemporary issues that that I personally face day to day. So yeah, I know it's rather an abstract question, but that's what I believe my art to mean to me.
Tristan, maybe you could introduce yourself a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Tristan, for those that who don't know me, and I am a painter.
Hi, I'm Nicole Beaulieu. I'm mostly a watercolor painter. I'm doing a BFA, or I finished my BFA. And I'm trying to remember what the question was again.
Oh, about lockdowns. How did you find working through under those constrictions? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think it kind of, in a weird way, pushed me to do bigger works. Since I was stuck in like my small room by myself, without being able to like interact with other artists from our class, I felt like I needed to fill the space more and be able to connect better with my classmates when I was trying to show them my works. And it really pushed me to like figure out or like dive deep into what it is that I want to explore in my art. So even though it was really frustrating to get stuff to work in general and like get materials, I think all in all, it did help me further my like development as an artist.
Oh, before someone else goes, we had a comment here. Congratulations to all of you for reaching this incredible milestone. I was an art student at the university and it was hard. You are all awesome. I never finished, lifelong learner. So thank you very much. Definitely been difficult this past year, but it was fun in a certain way. Definitely challenging though. Okay, here's another question. What is an interesting work from one of your colleagues that is either similar or generally interesting to you or your work?
Maybe before we answer that one, we could finish introducing ourselves. So I'll go quickly. So this year I've been working primarily in oil painting that's figurative. And then I also did an installation work that featured textiles and drawing and photography. So that's a little bit about myself. It was, yeah. Maybe who wants to go next?
I can go if I'm not stepping on anyone else's toes. I'm Hannah. I have a specialization in media, but found that to be particularly challenging to sort of pursue given the constrictions. So I actually went back to acrylic painting for the majority of the semester. And my last piece ended up being, I guess, somewhat like installation or like sculptural based as well. Anyone else want to introduce themselves?
I can go. My name is Emily, and I've been working in mostly painting this year. I was hoping to kind of start doing more sculpture this year, but that didn't really happen just because I was at home and didn't really have a lot of space. But hopefully in the future.
My name's Grace Dynason. I specialize in photography, but this year I did a lot of painting for my final project. Yeah, for lockdown it was quite difficult because I kind of started with an idea and then had to adapt it because of the restrictions, which I found challenging, and also thinking of a work that will work best or both as in person and online was difficult. Yeah.
Maybe to answer the question about what is an interesting work from one of your colleagues, I would say my answer is yours, Grace. I found that like the concept, you did it over 2 semesters, right? Was really interesting. I like that you sourced your images from multiple people, which made it feel really like interconnected, which is so important during this time. And it really translates well over like through photographs as well as in person. I wish I could have seen it in person. Yeah.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to answer that? Like an interesting work from one of your colleagues?
Sure. I personally really enjoy Hannah Palmer's work. I think that it's really like, sorry I say like so much. It's a force of habit. I think it's really well made. I always forget words. I'm so sorry. It came out like really, really well. I think it looks really nice, along with like the way that it talks about the body, and like the way that you like source the images you used are from your own images, and you manipulated them yourself and painted them again, and it just like so many layers of work went into it, and I think it's just really incredible, and the scale of it too is insane, and it looks really, really good. Yeah, so I would say Hannah Palmer's work is something I find really interesting.
We have another question, unless anybody else wants to answer that one. So this question is about our differing painting perspectives and how they have become your specialty or why. I have looked at some very bold and interesting themes that I would love to hear more about. For example, I've seen some history-related influences, themes of gender, sexuality, self-representation, body representation, and I would love to hear more about your various perspectives for these investigations. I think
I can give that a shot if you want. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that for me, this semester was really sort of interesting in and of itself for me, because I hadn't been painting for about a year prior to the semester. So it was like I had to come back to the medium as well as sort of like explore my sort of relationship to it. But I find it really, I sort of have a roadblock with figure painting, and I find that I am interested in figure painting primarily. So, but my roadblock sort of comes in the form of like, I feel like the only body that I really can or should be representing is my own body, because that's sort of the only thing that I can like speak for truly that I've like experienced. And so I have been doing just a series of self-portraits and in just sort of just for the purpose of like investigating the body and like mass, flesh, like the occupancy of space sort of thing through like my body as like the specimen sort of for like experimentation, I guess. And that's sort of where I was coming from.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. In past years, I had really stuck to historical reference images because I felt uncomfortable representing bodies, and it felt like if it had already been represented, I was just re-representing it. It was okay. And then this year, I also did a self-portrait, and it was interesting to explore the body from that perspective. And then for my other paintings, I used family photographs. So keeping it really connected like to my identity and myself. And I know Emily Isnor did sort of a self-portraiture approach as well.
Yeah, this year I decided to paint some self-portraits. In the past, I really not wanted to do that. I felt really uncomfortable doing it. So I also was sticking to more like historical themes in the past year, but I think it worked out for the better and I really enjoyed it.
We have another question. Will we ever be able to see the works in person? I feel like the installations especially would hit different if we could go inside. I really wish that I could have had people see my installation in person. And I know, Hannah, you probably feel the same way with your work. Unfortunately, right now, I don't know if that would ever happen. I hope so. Maybe that's a good idea. to find a way to one day in the future have people be able to experience that work in person.
I don't know. I wouldn't want anybody to see my work in person. Because especially since it's like via like a screen and it's taken with the eye of the camera, it's completely different from the way in which it was from if it was seen in person. Because I knew when I was painting that it was going to be seen through a screen or seen via camera, so I always played to the camera's eye, and things were always over accentuated so that they could be picked up at the camera. And I don't think they look that great in person, but of course that's just me. I'm a perfectionist, so yeah, it's possible. Like it looks okay, but a lot of it is over accentuated so that the camera lens could pick things up.
That's so interesting. I think I was doing that subconsciously a little bit, just knowing that all the work I was creating would primarily be seen through a screen, and it definitely changed the way I was approaching things. We have another question. What is something, moment, pet, friends, etc., positive that has kept you motivated for your work and in general as a student and artist?
I feel like I could answer that one if no one else wants to right now. For me, I painted people's sentimental objects, and it got quite repetitive after a while because I painted about 21 of them. But for me, the big motivator was knowing that these objects were important to people and what the importance of them was. Because if you just see them randomly, it's just looks very ordinary, mundane. But knowing that this is something really important to someone kind of kept me motivated to continue doing all the paintings, to put equal care into each painting as well, which was, for me, it was very directed towards the project, which was my motivation.
I don't know if this is true for Hannah, but I know every time I saw your dog, that really motivated me. Yeah, Hannah has the cutest little dog. Zoe, right?
Yeah, she was just sitting on me, but she wanted down. I would have picked her up for you. Yeah, she sat in on all my Zoom calls on my lap.
Oh, we have a request to see your dog.
Oh, okay, I'll get her.
And then we have a comment, beautiful answers. And what are your biggest inspirations to keep making art?
I can take this one. For me, my biggest inspirations for art mainly stem from my cultural heritage and trying to connect back with it, especially after having grown up in a mainly, like, for lack of a better word, white neighborhood. So me and my family, my mom is Chinese and my dad is French, and me and my sister both speak French, but we didn't ever really get to learn much about, like, quote unquote Chinese traditions until we were older, or learn Chinese language when we were older. And so trying to reconnect to that culture that we don't have here in Canada is something that really inspires me and motivates me to make more of these works, and try to make works that show light on other smaller minority groups, or like stuff that relates to their culture, in hopes to like make it more, I guess, mainstream in a way, but also just more known in general. Yeah.
Okay, we have a question. How has your art developed from your first year self to yourself now as an artist? I think for me, it was really about finding sources and researching the work. Like, developing that process has really helped me create more impactful work, I think. Yeah.
I totally agree. Sorry, Hannah. I totally agree with you. I think that since first year in art school, learning how to understand what I should be added, or like what should be the details and like the little things that make the work like higher level than what it was, has been something that is like the biggest thing that I've learned over the last 4 years. So yeah.
Okay. It's developed a lot. I went from primarily sculpture in first year to somehow becoming a media installation artist, which was quite a big leap for me. I think it's mostly the fact that I found a new passion through the classes and the teachers, which were, most of them were all fantastic, not naming names. But yes, it was just the fact that for me, learning about the moving picture and how that can tell stories and connect with people on an emotional level, that really opened up new doors for me and my artwork and helped me translate my thoughts into my work, which is the primary reason that I do art. It's to be able to better communicate certain topics that I want to talk about.
Does anyone else want to answer that question about how your art has developed from first year?
I can give it a shot. Like for first year, I paint really big because that was the requirements, and a lot of times I didn't have time to do like small details, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. But it was often very loose and atmospheric, and almost gave a sense of movement, and I did enjoy that aspect of it. But one thing though, like working on a slightly smaller canvas, like really did, and focusing on that, I really did enjoy those aspects as well. How I could really go over the details and make things a little more tighter, a little more cleaner, and at least that's how my art progressed during that span from first year to fourth.
I had the total opposite experience, Tristan. I started smaller, and then as I sort of went on, I found that like the smaller the canvas, the more like hesitant I would be to start, because it just feels like so boxed in. So I needed like larger and larger surfaces to feel like I could kind of like approach them, which is a problem now because I don't really know how to get bigger from here. But
so we have about 10 minutes left and we have 2 more questions. So the first one is, how can we best experience your works in this virtual space? Maybe Victoria, you're best to answer that.
Yeah, absolutely. Typically there is the virtual gallery, which you can go see. All of the instructions should be written on the description of the space, how you can connect to it through WSD to move around and see it. The only one, the main drawback to that is that it is a little computer intensive. So you might need a powerful computer or refresh your page a couple times before you can actually see the works. Another way to do it is through the website, which has some fantastic documentation done by our students and a professional photographer. So please go check that out on the website if you haven't already. We also have the artist's social media handles, which are also on their profile pages, so please go check them out. They are constantly doing amazing work, and they will continue, hopefully continue into the far future, making art, because that is a passion we all have.
And we have a question for Tristan. Where do your image influences come from? They're very interesting.
Great deal of things, from photographs, from videos, from sort of going through catalogs, anything that really strikes me. And I think it's the same for so many different artists out there, is that something that really interests them, intrigues them, is going to be an influence in their work. And that's the same for me. I really do enjoy historical works of art. I love going to the museum. Sadly, the world has changed, but in a distant, not so distant past, I did enjoy going out to the galleries and seeing, especially in Ottawa, it's so beautiful. So many different art spaces, whether it be contemporary or historical, and those are my influences.
And if you could expand, how hard was it to transition from the usual physical arts exhibition to a virtual one, if time permits? It was not an easy transition, I think, because it's kind of new territory for all of us, but Victoria really took on that challenge. Same with Hannah. They were both in charge of organizing the virtual exhibition space, and they did an amazing job. Yeah. And I think this whole year we've seen everybody struggling with that transition, but I don't know, can anyone else speak to that? I know I found it a little difficult.
I can kind of speak on it a little bit. Yeah, I found it difficult kind of transitioning because it definitely impacted on how you created, we created our work. Like Tristan was saying, you kind of look at it through a camera's eye rather than just how people would see it in person. One nice thing about it was, I know a few of us got together, we were able to actually create the gallery space. We could tailor it to however we wanted to and put the walls up wherever we wanted to put them up, which was really nice to kind of build it from scratch without limitations of an actual building. I think that was probably, for me, the biggest pro that stood out when creating the space.
And we have a comment. Amazing work, everyone. I would highly suggest everyone take a look at the virtual gallery, even if it's just to admire its build. So a very nice compliment for Victoria.
Thank you so much. It was a definite struggle to put it together, but I'm so glad it turned out so well. Honestly, kudos to all of the artists as well for making such amazing documentation. It did significantly make my job easier. And of course, thank you for everyone who helped me make the virtual gallery in such a short amount of time. It definitely was an amazing feat that we managed to get it up and ready for today. So thank you, big thank you to all of you. Seriously, you have really pulled through for us.
And back to the question about how do you find artists' Instagram accounts, I just put the Instagram for the exhibit in the chat. I think everyone should be able to view that. And there's posts for, I think, every artist in the exhibition, and all their accounts are linked in those posts. And thank you all for sharing your art and your stories, is another comment.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. I think we've just wrapped up. I don't see any more questions. So Victoria, are we taking a quick break before 7 or?
Yeah. If there is no one else who would like to answer any questions, we will be taking a break until 7 o'clock, which is when our award ceremony will start. You may come back then if you'd like. You can go ahead and take a break. We will have all of our panelists join. We already have a few early ones, like Andrew. So
I thought I was late. Sorry.
No. It starts at 7 o'clock, so you're still fine. Yeah. So it's going to be quite the event. Please come join. Get as many people as you can to join. This is going to be once in a lifetime opportunity, at least for us graduating. So we will also be live streaming this onto YouTube. So if you know anyone who cannot join the Zoom for whatever reason, please go check out our YouTube page. There is a link both on the attendee Eventbrite ticket. There is also the Zoom link on the website. If you go to awards, there should be a link to the live stream that you can see directly from there. Also, I have posted the link to the virtual gallery in the chat, so please go check that out when you can. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for coming to the Meet the Artist event, and I look forward to seeing you during the award ceremony. Bye.